While shoveling snow from our driveway at 5 a.m. before work, I noticed my wife had left her phone on the kitchen counter, still unlocked. As I stepped inside to warm up for a moment, I glanced at the screen and saw her text exchange pop up. "He's out there like an idiot in the blizzard. If we're lucky, he'll have a heart attack and we won't need the divorce." Her lover replied with laughing emojis. I finished clearing the snow and left for work as usual. Yesterday, she regretted everything she said. Hey everyone. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Throwaway for obvious reason. Long post ahead, but I need to get this off my chest. You ever have one of those moments where your entire life just shifts? Not the good kind. The kind where the ground under your feet suddenly isn't there anymore, and you're in free fall. It was Wednesday, February 17th. Night is 12 degrees with the wind chill. The kind of cold that burns your lungs when you breathe in. Dark as a coal mine at 5 a.m., with another 8 inches of snow dumped overnight on our driveway. I remember checking the weather app before bed, blizzard warning until noon, but I still set my alarm for 4:45 a.m., always do. 15 years working at the plant taught me that weather isn't an excuse. You show up. Michelle was still sleeping when I slipped out of bed. 8 years of marriage, and she's never once offered to help shovel, never even suggested I stay in bed during a storm, just expected the driveway to be clear when she leaves at 8:30. That's how it's always been. I don't mind the work, or at least I didn't. My dad always said a man takes care of his home, his family. It's what I was raised on. Looking back, there were signs, so many signs. The late nights working, new clothes, more makeup, laughing at texts, but hiding the screen when I walked by. Classic, right? But when you're in it, when you trust someone, your brain makes excuses. She's just having a good day. She's networking. She deserves nice things. I was an idiot. So there I was, bundled in layers, snow up to my knees, shovel scraping concrete at 5 a.m. No neighbors out yet, just me and the sound of my breathing, steam rising from my face like an old factory smokestack. The security light on our garage threw this sad yellow glow across the snow. Half the driveway done, fingers numb despite the gloves. Needed to warm up for a minute. I stomped my boots on the mat and stepped into the kitchen through the side door. Michelle had left her phone on the counter when she came down for water at some point. Not unusual. What was unusual was that it was unlocked, screen still lit up, and a text notification had just popped up. I'm not a snoop, never have been. But when your brain registers your own name in a message, it's like a reflex. You look. And there it was. I saw the message from Michelle to someone saved as W. He out there like an idiot in the blizzard. If we're lucky, he'll have a heart attack and we won't need the divorce. The reply had just come in, with 3 laughing emojis. 3 laughing emojis at the idea of finding me dead in the snow. My chest seized up. Not a heart attack, just pure shock. It's bizarre how your body reacts to that kind of betrayal. First came the cold sweat, then this weird hollow in my stomach, then a buzzing in my ears like I was standing next to heavy machinery. I must have stood there for 2 full minutes just staring. I put the phone down exactly how I found it, grabbed my gloves, went back outside, finished the entire driveway, every inch, methodical, like a machine. I remember thinking that each shovel of snow was one more piece of evidence that I wasn't having a heart attack, that I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. Drove to work, clocked in, went through the motions, kept replaying those words in my head. If we're lucky, he'll have a heart attack. 8 years. 8 years together, and she was hoping for my death. The person who sleeps next to me, who I've supported through 3 job changes, who I've cooked soup for when she was sick, who I trusted with everything. When I got home that evening, Michelle acted completely normal, asked about my day, made small talk about the weather, said she was glad I cleared the driveway so early. I just nodded and smiled, played along. My mind was somewhere else, running calculations, making observations. Who was W? How long had this been going on? How many other messages had they exchanged? What divorce was she talking about? She hadn't mentioned divorce to me. That night, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. She changed her password. Of course, sleep was impossible. I lay there listening to her breathe, wondering how someone could wish death on the person lying next to them. The ceiling fan clicked with each rotation like a timer counting down to something. The next morning, I was up before my alarm, checked our bank accounts on my phone while still in bed. No unusual withdrawals, but I noticed she'd stopped depositing her full paycheck into our joint account about 3 months ago. Another red flag. I admit, I called in sick. First time in 2 years. Waited until Michelle left, then began searching the house, found nothing in the obvious places. But then I checked the pocket of her winter coat, the one she rarely wears. A receipt for a hotel downtown, 2 weeks ago, when she said she was at a work training weekend, room service for 2. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Evidence gathering like those crime shows Michelle always watches with me. The irony wasn't lost on me. Called my buddy Floyd, known him since we were kids throwing rocks at abandoned factories. He came right over, brought coffee and donuts, sat at my kitchen table while I spilled everything. "You need to get your in order before she knows that you know," he said through a mouthful of glazed donut. "She's planning something. You need to plan better." Floyd's been through 2 divorces himself, says it's always the same playbook. Whoever strikes first has the advantage. He helped me log into our cell phone account. Michelle and someone saved as William had exchanged over 2,000 texts in the last month. Hundreds of calls, always during her lunch breaks or when I was at work. The call log showed the pattern going back at least 6 months. Classic affair timeline, Floyd said, scrolling through the data. Starts with a few calls, escalates to dozens, then hundreds. She's in deep, bro. I felt like I was operating heavy machinery with no training. Everything was loud and dangerous, and one wrong move could crush me. Floyd helped me set up a separate bank account that afternoon. We transferred half of our savings, the money I'd been putting aside for the kitchen renovation Michelle had been begging for. The irony was enough to make me laugh. That horrible, empty laugh that echoes in your own head. That night, I watched Michelle more carefully. The way she checked her phone constantly, how she kept it face down on the table, the way she'd step outside to take calls, the slight smile when certain messages came through. All these behaviors I'd written off as normal now looked like glaring sirens. We should plan a vacation, I said casually over dinner. Maybe in April. Could use some time away together. She didn't even look up from her phone. April's busy at work. Maybe summer. By summer, she planned to be rid of me, either by divorce or by my convenient heart attack. The realization made me grip my fork so tight my knuckles went white. I spent the weekend cataloging our assets, the house we bought 5 years ago, the cars, the furniture, the retirement accounts, all while pretending everything was normal, watching TV together. Making breakfast, small talk about nothing. On Monday during my lunch break, I called Clara. My sister has always been the practical one. When our parents died, she handled everything while I was still trying to process. I needed that energy now. She listened without interrupting as I explained everything. When I finished, she was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. You need a lawyer, she finally said. Today, and you need to find out who William is. It didn't take long. A quick search of Michelle's work contacts on LinkedIn, and there he was, William Thornton. Senior partner at her firm, married, 2 kids, silver-haired jackass with perfect teeth in his profile picture. I almost threw my phone across the break room. 3 days later, I sat in a lawyer's office during what was supposed to be my shift. Took more sick time. The lawyer, an older woman with reading glasses hanging from a chain, listened to my story, examined the evidence I'd collected, and nodded slowly. You've done good preliminary work, she said. Most people come in here emotional, with nothing documented. You're ahead of the game. She outlined what would happen next. The legal process, the financial implications, the timeline. It all sounded so clinical, like diagnosing a machine failure. Part A is broken, replace with Part B, resume operations. One more thing, I said as our consultation was ending. I don't just want a divorce. I want her to regret ever thinking that my death would be convenient. The lawyer removed her glasses. Revenge isn't my department, but I can ensure you don't get taken advantage of financially. The rest is up to you. That night, I looked at Michelle across the dinner table and felt nothing but cold determination. The woman who hoped I'd die in a blizzard was chatting about office politics like nothing was wrong, smiling, planning her exit, waiting for her opportunity. But I would be the one catching her off guard. I would be the blizzard she didn't see coming. I've spent the last week gathering more evidence, planning, consulting with the lawyer, moving money, documenting everything. Michelle hasn't noticed a thing. Too wrapped up in her affair, her secret plans, her fantasy life with William. Tomorrow I start phase 2, the part where I stop being passive, the part where I stop shoveling her snow. We'll update when there's more to share. Thanks for reading this far, Reddit. Feels good to put this somewhere, even anonymous. Any advice from people who've caught cheating spouses is welcome, especially the ones who wished you were dead. Update. First off, I just want to say thanks for all the messages and comments on my last post. Never expected that kind of response. Reading through your stories helped me realize I'm not alone in this. Some of you have been through way worse. Props to the guy whose ex tried to poison his protein shakes. Hope you're doing better now, man. It's been 16 days since I found those texts. 16 days of living with someone who wished me dead. 16 days of pretending everything is normal while systematically dismantling the life we built together. Let me catch you up. Remember how I mentioned consulting with a lawyer? I've had 3 more meetings since then. Turns out divorce is complicated as hell. Like trying to separate 2 engines that have been running together for years. Cables and wires all tangled up, oil mixing together, shared parts. The lawyer suggested I document everything. So I bought one of those password-protected journal apps. Been logging every conversation, every suspicious behavior, every time Michelle lies about where she's going. Floyd has been a lifesaver through all this. His IT knowledge came in clutch when I needed to recover deleted texts from our cloud backup. We spent a Saturday afternoon in his garage, laptops open, energy drinks piled up, digging through data while his dog kept trying to sit on the keyboard. Found 6 months of messages between Michelle and William. 6 months. The texts were worse than I imagined. Plans for their future together, complaints about me, detailed accounts of hotel meetups during work trips, and yeah, more jokes about my potential demise. Apparently, my high cholesterol, which Michelle always claimed to be concerned about, was another source of hope for them. How convenient it would be if I just dropped dead naturally. I printed everything, 3-hole punched it, put it in a binder. Old school, I know, but there's something satisfying about physical evidence you can slap down on a table. Phase 1 of my plan was information gathering. Phase 2 is about applying pressure, the kind Michelle won't immediately recognize as pressure. Small changes in behavior, subtle shifts in our routine, the type of stuff that makes someone feel like they're losing their grip but can't quite figure out why. It started with changing my work schedule. Told Michelle I'd been assigned to different hours due to project needs. In reality, I've been using that time to meet with the lawyer, set up separate bank accounts, and document our assets. I've started moving my personal items, family photos, heirlooms from my parents, important documents, to a storage unit Floyd helped me rent. Nothing Michelle would immediately notice, but enough that I'll be ready when it hits the fan. The financial prep has been the most stressful part. Our joint account, which I have faithfully deposited into for 8 years, now only gets the bare minimum needed for bills. The rest goes into my new private account. I've cataloged everything we own, down to the set of golf clubs gathering dust in the garage, which, by the way, were a birthday gift from Michelle 3 years ago, back when she apparently still wanted me alive. Last week, I told Michelle I had to go on a business trip. 3 days in Chicago for training. She seemed relieved, practically pushed me out the door. I bet she and William had the house to themselves within hours of my departure. But here's the thing. I never left town. Stayed at a Motel 6 just outside the city. Spent those 3 days meeting with the lawyer, organizing finances, and preparing for what comes next. When I returned from my trip, I set up cameras in our living room and kitchen. Nothing in the bedroom. I'm not trying to catch sex tapes, just conversations. Legal in our state as long as it's my property too. Already caught Michelle on the phone with William several times, planning their next moves. In one call, she mentioned they should wait until April to file for divorce. Apparently, that's when William's bonus comes in. How considerate. The real turning point came 4 days ago. I decided it was time to confront William directly. Not Michelle. Not yet. William, I found out which coffee shop he stops at every morning before work, one of those fancy places with the $7 lattes and pretentious baristas. I waited in my car until I saw him park his ridiculous German sports car. Followed him inside. He didn't recognize me at first. Why would he? I'm just the faceless husband in the background of Michelle's stories. I sat down across from him while he was waiting for his order. The look on his face when I introduced myself? Priceless. Like watching someone realize they left their garage door open during a thunderstorm. I kept my voice low, casually told him I knew everything. Showed him a sample of the texts I'd recovered, mentioned that his wife might be interested in seeing them too. William started sweating through his expensive button-down, kept looking around like someone might rescue him. Asked what I wanted, as if this was some kind of negotiation. I just smiled and said I wanted nothing from him except distance, from me and from Michelle. Told him I'd be filing for divorce soon and it would go a lot smoother for everyone if he disappeared from the picture until it was finalized. He promised to back off immediately, even offered me money, which I refused. Not because I'm noble, I'm not, but because taking his cash would undermine the legal process. I need him scared, not relieved. Since that meeting, Michelle's been acting strange, checking her phone constantly but getting no responses, calling numbers that go to voicemail. William is ghosting her, just as he promised. The confusion on her face grows by the day. Yesterday, she asked if everything was okay between us, said I seemed distant lately. I almost laughed in her face. Instead, I told her work has been stressful. She suggested we take a weekend trip somewhere to reconnect. The audacity is almost impressive. Meanwhile, I've been laying groundwork with our social circle. Nothing obvious, no dramatic accusations or public scenes, just casual comments that plant seeds of doubt. Mentioning to our friends how Michelle's been working late so often, asking if anyone's seen her at the places she claims to be. People are starting to notice inconsistencies in her stories. Clara came over last Sunday, ostensibly to drop off some books she borrowed, but really to check on me. Michelle was noticeably uncomfortable around her. Clara has this way of looking at people like she's scanning them for lies. She asked Michelle about her work training weekend from last month, mentioning she saw someone who looked just like Michelle downtown that weekend, nowhere near where the training was supposed to be. The stammering excuse Michelle gave was painfully unconvincing. The small satisfactions keep me going. Like when Michelle's credit card was declined at the grocery store because I removed her as an authorized user on our joint card, or when she couldn't log into our shared Netflix account because I changed the password. Tiny inconveniences that slowly crack her sense of security. I'll admit, living like this is exhausting. Maintaining the act, pretending I don't know that the person across the breakfast table fantasized about my death. There are moments I almost break, almost scream the truth at her just to see the look on her face. But the long game is worth it. The complete systematic dismantling of her comfortable life is worth it. Last night was almost too much, though. Michelle got a call during dinner. From the look on her face, I knew it was about William. She excused herself to take it in the bedroom. When she came back, her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Part of me felt a twisted satisfaction. The other part remembered the woman I fell in love with years ago and felt a pang of something. Not quite sadness, not quite regret. Just the acknowledgement that something that once mattered is now dead. I asked if everything was okay. She nodded and mumbled something about a stressful project. The lie hung between us like cigarette smoke in a small room. For a brief second, I considered ending the charade right there, laying it all out. But the moment passed. The plan is working too well to abort now. This morning brought a new development. William's wife called me. Apparently, he came clean to her about some of the affair. Minimized version, I'm sure, as a preemptive measure. She found my number in their phone records and wanted details. We're meeting for coffee tomorrow. I've got copies of everything ready to go. William's house of cards is about to collapse on that front too. As for Michelle, the pressure is clearly getting to her. She tried calling William 17 times yesterday, according to our phone records. 17 desperate attempts to reach someone who's cut her off. She's starting to panic, searching for a lifeline that isn't there. I've scheduled a meeting with HR at her workplace next week, not to cause a scene, just to quietly inform them of an inappropriate relationship between employees that might affect company culture. The policy handbook I found online has a clear section on disclosure of romantic relationships, especially between different levels of seniority. Funny how neither Michelle nor William bothered with that formality. Floyd thinks I should accelerate the timeline, just serve her the papers and be done with it. But there's a method to my approach. I want Michelle to feel the same slow-building dread I felt standing in that kitchen reading those texts. The same gradual realization that everything she thought was solid is actually quicksand. The same helpless panic as every support structure collapses. Is it petty? Absolutely. Justified? I think so. When someone wishes you dead while you're breaking your back shoveling snow for them at 5 a.m., they forfeit the right to a clean, simple divorce. The next phase starts tomorrow. I've already transferred the last of my personal items to the storage unit, changed my direct deposit information at work, secured all important documents. The lawyer has the divorce papers ready to go. Michelle's about to discover that the husband she wanted dead has been 10 steps ahead of her all along. We'll update again when there's more to share. Thanks again for all the support. Reddit. Dark times, but reading your comments helps. Knowing I'm not alone in this nightmare makes the days a bit more bearable. Final update. Edit. Thanks for the awards and DMs. Honestly didn't expect this trilogy to resonate with so many people. For those asking about my mental health, I'm hanging in there. Some days are better than others. It's been 37 days since I found those texts. 37 days of playing chess while Michelle thought we were playing checkers. 37 days of watching her world crumble piece by piece like a building during controlled demolition. And now, it's done. The dust is settling. Thought I'd give you all the final updates since so many of you have followed this nightmare from the beginning. Quick recap for the new folks. Found my wife texting her lover about how she hoped I'd die of a heart attack while shoveling snow. Discovered their months-long affair. Instead of confronting her immediately, I methodically prepared for divorce while psychologically dismantling her security. Previous posts have the details. Where did we leave off? Right, I was about to meet William's wife for coffee. That meeting changed everything. Allison, William's wife, was nothing like I expected. I'd pictured some meek, clueless woman. But she showed up in yoga pants and a hoodie, hair in a messy bun, with the energy of someone who could probably bench press me if properly motivated. Turns out she's a former college athlete who now runs a popular fitness Instagram. William had confessed to a brief, inappropriate relationship with a coworker, minimizing everything as usual. When I slid the binder of evidence across the table, Allison didn't cry or freak out. She just put on her reading glasses and went through it page by page, occasionally sipping her cold brew like she was reviewing quarterly reports. After 20 minutes of silence, most awkward coffee ever, she closed the binder, took off her glasses, and simply said, "Well." Then she asked if I had copies she could take. We spent the next hour comparing notes, filling in timeline gaps. Apparently, William had been acting sketchy since fall, always on his phone, working late, the classic signs we both missed. What happened next wasn't part of my plan, but it accelerated everything beautifully. Allison, who has about 47,000 followers on Instagram, didn't post anything directly about the affair. But that night she did post a cryptic story about redecorating the house and removing toxic elements, with some heavy metal playing in the background while she packed William's designer clothes into garbage bags. Internet sleuths being what they are, her followers immediately started speculating. By morning, William's social media was flooded with questions. The next day was when everything converged perfectly. I'd taken the day off work, knowing Michelle would be home late. Set up the living room like a corporate presentation, binder of evidence on the coffee table, divorce papers neatly stacked, screenshots of texts printed and arranged chronologically. Even had a PowerPoint ready on my laptop with a timeline of their relationship, complete with hotel receipts and phone records. Too much? Maybe. But there's something satisfying about good visual aids when your world is imploding. When Michelle finally came home around 7, she looked stressed, checked her phone immediately upon entering, still hoping for a text from William, no doubt. She didn't notice the setup at first, just dropped her bag and mentioned something about grabbing takeout since she was too tired to cook. Then she saw the binder, saw me sitting calmly in the armchair, saw the papers. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees in an instant. What followed was like watching someone cycle through the stages of grief on fast forward. First came confusion, asking what all this was, laughing nervously like it might be some elaborate joke. Then denial, claiming I was misinterpreting, that the texts weren't what they seemed. Then anger. How dare I go through her phone, invade her privacy, talk to William's wife. I stayed silent through most of it, just clicking through the PowerPoint slides as she ranted. The timeline, the evidence, the text where she hoped for my death. That one I let linger on screen a bit longer. When she finally ran out of steam, I handed her the divorce papers. Told her I'd already moved most of my stuff out, that I'd be staying with Floyd until she found somewhere else to go, since the house was in my name. Another detail she'd conveniently forgotten. The shift from anger to panic was almost cinematic. Suddenly she was crying, saying she made a mistake, that William meant nothing, that the texts were just jokes, dark humor. She never meant that. She never really wanted me dead. I asked if she'd checked her work email today. She looked confused, then grabbed her phone. Her face went pale as she read the message from HR requesting a meeting tomorrow morning. Turns out her workplace has a zero-tolerance policy for undisclosed relationships between senior and junior staff. William had already been called in earlier that day. The crying intensified. Michelle kept saying this would ruin her career, her reputation. I reminded her that just last month she was hoping I'd die of a heart attack in our driveway so she wouldn't have to deal with a divorce. Funny how consequences suddenly seemed excessive when they were happening to her. She tried a new angle, claiming William had manipulated her, that he was the mastermind, that she'd been vulnerable after her mom's health scare last year. I just pulled up the texts where she'd initiated most of their meetings, where she'd suggested the hotels, where she'd complained about me and fantasized about our future without me in it. By midnight, Michelle had moved from denial to bargaining, offered couples therapy, promised to quit her job, swore she'd make it up to me. Even tried to initiate sex, which was so pathetically transparent I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I slept in the guest room that night, door locked, could hear her crying through the wall, the sound used to tear me apart. Now it was just background noise, like the broken bathroom fan that never quite got fixed. The next week was a blur of logistics. Michelle was put on administrative leave, pending investigation. William, with his senior position and connections, somehow kept his job but was transferred to another office across the country. Allison filed for divorce the same day I did, and from what I hear through mutual connections, she's taking him for everything he's worth. Michelle couldn't afford the mortgage on her own, especially with her job situation uncertain. She moved in with her sister temporarily, taking only her clothes and personal items. Watching her pack was surreal. This woman I'd shared 8 years with, reduced to suitcases and boxes, sorting through the artifacts of our failed marriage like an archaeologist at a dig site. The social fallout was swift. Most of our friends took my side after learning the basics. A few stayed neutral, not wanting to choose only one. Michelle's friend from college defended her, claiming I must have driven her to it somehow. That friendship imploded spectacularly during a group dinner when Floyd, 3 beers in, asked her if wishing your spouse dead was a reasonable response to marital problems. Michelle's family was a mixed bag. Her parents were mortified. Her dad couldn't even look me in the eye when they came to help her move. Her sister pulled me aside and apologized, said she'd suspected something was off for months, but didn't want to interfere. Admitted Michelle had always been the family princess who never faced consequences for anything. Throughout all this, Michelle's attempts at reconciliation grew increasingly desperate. Daily texts, tearful voicemails, flowers delivered to my work, a handwritten 12-page letter detailing every good moment of our marriage as if cataloging the past could somehow erase her betrayal. She even showed up at Floyd's place one night, drunk and crying, until his girlfriend threatened to call the cops. The divorce proceedings moved forward despite her delaying tactics. My lawyer was ruthlessly efficient, having dealt with similar cases countless times. Michelle finally got a lawyer of her own, some budget option her sister found who seemed overwhelmed by the mountain of evidence against her client. 2 months in, Michelle lost her job. The internal investigation concluded she'd violated multiple policies. William, predictably, had thrown her under the bus completely, claiming she'd pursued him aggressively and that he'd tried to end things several times. Classic William. With no income and diminishing prospects, Michelle's desperation peaked. She started posting vague, self-pitying quotes on Instagram, reached out to mutual friends with revised versions of what happened, even contacted Clara to try to get her to intervene on her behalf, a spectacular miscalculation that resulted in my sister blocking her on every platform. The divorce was finalized last week, faster than average, the lawyer said, due to the overwhelming evidence and Michelle's eventual decision to stop fighting the inevitable. No kids to complicate things, thankfully. No shared business. Just the splitting of assets, which heavily favored me given the circumstances. Yesterday was the first time I'd seen Michelle in person since she moved out. We met at a notary's office to sign the final paperwork. She looked different, thinner, darker circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail instead of her usual careful styling. For a brief moment, I felt that twinge again. Not love or forgiveness, just the recognition of someone who once meant everything and now feels like a stranger. As we walked to our cars afterward, she tried one last time. Said she'd been in therapy, learning about her self-destructive patterns. Said she still loved me, still believed we could rebuild. That losing me had made her realize what really mattered. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but exhaustion. Told her that wishing someone dead isn't something you come back from. That trust, once shattered that completely, doesn't get glued back together, that I genuinely hoped she'd find whatever she was looking for, but it wouldn't be with me. She started crying again, right there in the parking lot between a FedEx truck and someone's rusting Honda. Said I was being cruel, that everyone deserves a second chance, that the new Michelle would never hurt me again. I just got in my car and drove away. Some conversations have no good endings. It's been 6 months since that morning in the kitchen when I saw those texts. 6 months of anger, grief, planning, and finally release. I'm back in my house now. Repainted the walls, rearranged the furniture, trying to erase the memory imprints of her in every room. Floyd and I still meet up for beers on Thursdays. He's been solid through all this, the kind of friend who helps you move bodies, metaphorically speaking. Clara checks in almost daily, worried about how I'm really doing beneath the stoic exterior. My answer varies depending on the day. Dating is a distant concept, like planning a trip to Mars. Possible someday, but not a priority now. Trust doesn't come easy, and I find myself analyzing casual interactions with women, looking for hidden meanings, secret texting. My therapist says that's normal, that it'll fade with time. Michelle still tries to contact me occasionally. Birthday text, Christmas card, random just checking in messages that I mostly ignore. From social media, which I rarely check anymore, I can see she's moved to another city, started a new job, posted something recently about rebuilding from rock bottom with some inspirational quote overlaid on a sunset. Good for her, I guess. As for William, karma's a patient beast. His transfer wasn't the promotion he expected, according to Allison, who I still get coffee with occasionally. Trauma bonding is real. He's living in a one-bedroom apartment while their divorce finalizes, struggling to maintain his previous lifestyle on a single income with alimony payments looming. His eldest daughter won't speak to him. His country club membership lapsed. Small satisfactions. The house feels empty sometimes. Not in a sad way, just in a space to fill way. Thinking about getting a dog. Always wanted one, but Michelle was allergic, or so she claimed. Now I wonder if that was just another small lie in a marriage built on them. It's snowing again today. Not a blizzard like before, just light flakes drifting down. I still get up early to shovel, old habits and all. But now when I come inside to warm up, the only messages on my phone are from people who actually give a damn whether I live or die. And that, Reddit, is worth all the cold mornings in the world. Like today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.